Susan Rice, John Kerry, former President Barack Obama, all assuring us that Assad no longer had chemical weapons. Joining us now, CIA operative and co-founder of Diligence, Mike Baker. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so what was this? Was this deception? Were they delusional? Did they not have an ability to oversee it? How did they miss this so badly?
Well, frankly, I would argue that they were naive, and I don't think they weren't being deliberately, nefarious in their description of this. I just think that they, that foreign policy team of the previous administration, we talked about this for many years, they were just naive, I think, about how the world worked.
And leaning on Russia to get answers on
They took Russia at their word?
I mean, John Kerry saying, Russia's been constructive about this. Look, and Susan Rice, God bless her, but, she was out there recently, just during the past several months, talking about this very thing and saying, look, we didn't have to take military force, and we got rid of all these chemical weapons. I'll say two things about this. One is that it is extremely difficult to assess and verify a weapons program of a nation state that is hostile to your interests. It is extremely difficult to do that. The second point I would make is people should stand up and pay attention to that fact. Fact number one, when we think about the infamous Iranian nuke deal.
I was just going to ask about that. Isn't that all the more reason for us to be skeptical about the Iran deal and whether or not they actually have nuclear weapons? Are they really getting rid of those weapons? I mean, look at what just happened with chemical weapons in Syria.
The answer is no, they're not. And the answer is Secretary Kerry also said about the Iranian nuke deal that the important aspect of it is verification. He says we're basing it on verification. Well, then we are in trouble because we have never been able to verify the Iranian program.
Then we're the naive ones.
North Korea also told us they weren't pursuing nuclear weapons while in talks until they got them. And same in Syria, which is so instructive as far as it pertains to Iran.
We just have to have our eyes wide open.
Well, and with Syria, people are talking. I was at the Barclays Center last night for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was
awesome.
fantastic. But I ran into a lot of people that were complaining about this missile strike.
Well,
now,
not alone.
There's a lot of people out there saying, how could we possibly do this? People need to think about this in a terms other than just Syria. This is about international norms. If you don't take action on the use of chemical weapons, you are essentially, over a period of time, normalizing that behavior. That's true whether you're talking about your toddler doing something rude and you don't show them that there's consequences, or you're talking about a state or a group using chemical weapons.
You're basically your toddler saying, we're going to smack you upside the head.
But here's the problem. But here's the problem, and I totally agree with you, right? Because you think about 100 years ago, World War I, we ended that gassing in the trenches, the inhumane way of carrying out warfare, got it off the table. However, he's still using barrel bombs and killing children, whether it's with gas or these barrel bombs. So what are we supposed to do next?
Well, I think that Assad, look, and his dad, this stretching back for decades, has a tremendous amount of blood on his hands. Everybody agrees with the fact that Assad is a butcher. Now, if the changing calculus here, because of that missile strike, I suspect may be, if we can convince, we've got an opportunity right now with the Russians to convince Putin and his regime that they need to get on board this train. And if Putin, he always does whatever is in his best interest. If you think nothing else of the Russian government right now, other than to think they always act in their own best interests, I think there's an opportunity, because their best interest, what they're most interested in, is that port that maintains their Black Sea fleet. It's their only port. So a military presence there, that's number one. It's not Assad. Assad enables that.
Assad's a useful tool for them right now.
Their best interest doesn't need to look like Assad. So I think what they're going to see is, or what we're going to see is, if the global community, if we're able to do this, if we're able to convince others to get on board with the idea and convince him that Assad's going, with or without them, they'll come down to the table and they'll sit there because they're not going to want to lose their leverage. And there's a place for them in Syria. I mean, we're not going to be in a position where we're going to say, that's it, you're out of here. And we don't want to, I think. We want them to share the pain of what's going to happen next. Right.
Mike
What
Baker.
a hornet's nest.
Yeah, it really is. What an interesting perspective. Really grateful to have you on the couch this morning.
Thank you. I think you're a terrible judge of character, but thank you.
And I'm really jealous of the Hall of Fame last night, by the way.
Great show.
Wish I were invited to that.
Appreciate it.